Okay.
Who's the, this is the most popular date?
Whomever.
Are you ready to start? Keep me in line, I'm used to reverting this out loud. All right, it's 1 o'clock, let's bring the Park and Shade Tree Commission meeting to order. Okay, and we need a roll call.
Jen Reimer,
Here.
Steve Wynowski,
Here.
Barb Reeser,
Here.
Jean Seelig,
Here.
Lucy Cairns,
Here.
Nate Siebel,
Here.
and Jen Reimer.
Here.
Oh, I'm sorry, Jenna Barnett. I'm here too. All right, you're here twice.
I guess we'll start with public comment. Does anybody have anything?
I do. My name is Mary Ann Reardon. I live at 17 Wyomissing Hills Boulevard, and I'm a member of the Refuse and Recycling Committee. Let me just preface this by saying these questions may have been answered already by this committee, so please forgive me if I'm overstepping.
Mary Ann? I'm
Yes.
gonna tell you right now, we can't answer questions in public
Okay,
comment,
that's
just
fine.
comments.
I just want to
Okay.
pose them.
That's fine.
At yesterday's Refuse and Recycling Committee meeting, we discussed how the borough pays to have leaves and Christmas trees hauled away. That is not part of our contract with Mascaro, who does our trash and recycling. Is it possible to discuss a better, more efficient way to dispose of Christmas trees, since Blue Marsh Lake uses them for homes for fish? Can the leaves be used to fill in areas of the Wyomissing Trail that are now flooding? We also have wood chips from trees that the borough grinds that are available to residents. However, I'm not sure many residents know about these chips, where they're located, and if they are allowed to take them. Can this be something that's added to the borough website? Also, are residents allowed to take pine needles from the Wyomissing pine forest? I respectfully ask the Park and Shade Tree Committee to consider these questions and proposals. I hope our committees can work together to resolve some of these issues. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Jeremy and Larry are part of Berks Nature. They're here for the Parkland for Stewardship study.
Awesome. Okay, no more comment?
No, I want to say, if I was just letting everybody speak. Two things, Adrian Jadick, 48 Cardinal Road, two things. First of all, yes, yesterday was discussed, and I would like to bring to your consideration merging these two committees. So it was voted to create an environmental, EAC, what's that, action, whatever it is. Advisory Council, correct. So I think that these two, I mean, such a council would include matters discussed here, and I would think we always have to find ways to save money, taxpayers' money, and personnel time. I think it would make sense to consider merging everything into the Environmental Advisory Council. Consider that. The other thing I wanted, I think this committee should look, in my opinion, in the situation of trees that pop in the borough property. So it's that X amount of feet from curb. Just because a pine cone drops there, and here we have a sapling coming up. This, from what I have seen, trees grow up that are not borough trees, they're not part of our inventory, and they become an issue. When they become really big, then it's a huge cost. If we cut them or ask the owner to cut them while they're small, we avoid spending thousands later on. So I think this has to be a little bit, I think it's a matter of this committee to determine these policies and see if we can come up with something. I have several examples and where these trees could be taken down with little cost right now, as opposed to letting them go. So That's it, thank you so much.
All right, before we go into, our first topic, I wanted to there's a lot of new people, and I'm new as the chair. I wanted to kind of go around and us all maybe introduce ourselves. I'm Jen Reiner. I'm newly elected to Borough Council, and I have a horticulture degree, so I have some knowledge in this. I haven't used it in the last 20 years, so a lot of that knowledge is buried deep down inside of me. But I'm passionate about the environment and the parklands and the trees, so that's why I was assigned to this committee. I started on this committee about 1.5 years ago and just became the chair, so bear with me.
I'm Lucy Cairns. I've been a borough resident for about 25 years. I'm an ophthalmologist, now retired. Moved into the Highlands a 1.5 years ago. I serve on, there's a resident committee at the Highlands, which is focused on improving environmental stewardship practices for that campus. And I've walked in the park for many years, and I'm very familiar with the bird life there. I'm a member of the Mental Natural History Society, the Bear Club. I have done over 200 checklists to eBird in the Wyomissing Park, so I have a lot of data on the birds that use the park. And yeah, I'm very excited to be here.
Jan Barnett, this is my 3rd year in Borough Council. I attended a lot of park and shade tree meetings when they were held. And the past 2 years, I am usually in the parklands 30 to 45 minutes a day.
I'm Bill Jenks, President of Borough Council. I'd like to welcome all of you. And thank you for your interest. And I'm just here as an observer. So, but thank you for your interest in wanting to be part of this commission.
Greg Sheriff, foreman of the tree department.
Steve Bynowski, local resident, just a naturalist as well.
Nate Teeble, live here in the borough, and I run a landscape design and installation business that specializes in native gardens and management for native habitat and wildlife.
I'm Jean Seelig, and I'm a new member, and I have lived in the community for 25 years, and over those 25 years, I've walked the Parkland extensively and became very familiar with all its nooks and crannies. And then along the way, I took a course at the Barnes Arboretum School of Horticulture for 3 years. And when I finished that, I had new eyes to see the parkland. And I could see how important its diversity was to the whole community. But I could also see the number of invasive plants that are present. And in the subsequent years, it's only become worse. And now I think they are a real threat to the health of that community. And I do understand that help is on the way. So I'm just would like to say that I'm very happy to be here and possibly be in a position to help cure the ailments of the parkland.
I'm Barbara Reister, a lifelong resident of Wyomissing. I served in different capacities in the borough, and I'm very familiar with the parkland and just walk it every day, 4 miles.
Michelle Bear, borough manager. Love the Parkland area, not just as an employee, but I recreate there pretty frequently. I think it's a huge asset to the community, both in terms of wanting residents to live here and also attracting businesses because their employees can also use that as a resource.
Melissa Miller, borough secretary.
Barry Capriola, assistant director of public works. I grew up not in the borough, but playing in the parklands, and I am pretty excited to get along with our health and try to keep it and preserve it for the future. See it as a forest.
Jim Babb, the public works manager.
Blaine Hammond, the foreman for the
Thank you for that little elementary school introduction. I appreciate it. All right, we'll start with winter and spring plants.
You skip tree disease.
Oh, we're gonna start with tree disease and insects. Anybody have anything? Just-
My outline?
No.
Even that's on back. Okay, that's fine. They wanted me to put together just a fast outline for you. I have, basically 5 categories that we take care of for the next, basically the next year. The tree planting, this spring I already ordered, in order, but I pre-ordered, 89 trees will be put in, and then probably in the fall it'll be 30. I'm going with more native trees now. Mark before did a little more exotic sometimes, but we're gonna try getting back to more native. They do a little better in the streets. We have removals that we do. I have contracts that we're gonna be doing. We have one right now that's being in the process. We have 11 trees. That's gonna be done by the end of next week. It's gonna finish up. I already put together some other lists for contract bids, so I have probably another 13 that will go out in March at some point. And some we also put in some park trees. We're gonna be also, probably in the summertime, around the tennis courts, where there's a lot of dead ash trees. We're focusing, Dwayne and I are focusing on all the ash trees that need to come down. So that'll be more in the summer when the contractors can get in and get it done. My third category is insects and disease, which I see you have up in there. You are wondering about emerald ash borer. I've been treating them for the last 10 years. Yeah, since 2012. We treat about 330 every 3 years. This year it'll be about 90 to 100 trees that we treat. This year it'll be meadowlark and bluebird and Museum Road, and then a few parkland trees. The spotted lanternflies we're concerned about, they basically, I wouldn't say go to the wayside, but they really don't do much harm to the trees. And we're not having an infestation right now. I'll just keep an eye on them, and if there's any issues, we'll manage it with some chemicals. I spray the crab apples in the parkland and some that we have around Home Depot on that, on Crossing. And the other disease that we deal with is sweet gum bacteria canker, and that basically there's no treatment for. The best thing to do is cut it out. Basically, when I say cut it out, we're going to remove the tree. We have a lot of issue with that out on Lincoln Court. And then the other processes are pruning, and basically our main process with the pruning right now is requests. We get a lot of requests from the residents, and we do that in a timely fashion. And the other thing that we do is the training end of our small trees that we plant. We'll do that for the next 15 years from when they go in, and until we take them off our training list. And then I do have some other projects. I want to do Cambridge Avenue, Berkshire Boulevard for elevation, and then also around the school we're going to be doing some pruning around there after the kids are out, just to get some hazards out of the trees. And our other, with me having 3 younger guys now, and I have the experience, we're going to go to the ISA meeting this year again, which is in March, and hopefully the guys get some information out of that help them along. Do you have any other questions?
I have a question.
Sure.
I'm aware of the new beech leaf disease, which is killing many of the beech trees, like in Nolde Forest, and currently there's no treatment for it. Is that gonna be much of an issue for our borough? I don't know how many beech trees we
I
have.
don't really have any streetwise
Okay,
have beech trees. In the parkland there's some,
yeah,
nothing really you can do, but
yeah,
just watch it.
right.
You can cut out the canker, but a lot of that's more base-wise, and then there's not much street.
Right, right, so it's mainly that little road in the park.
Yeah, I mean, it's just, Dwayne and I gotta keep an eye on it.
Jen, can I give some background information for the commission? So, to those of you mainly that are new, not be aware the borough has approximately 7,000 street trees that we plant, maintain. We have 4 full-time employees in the tree department whose sole responsibility is to take care of those trees and work with the Parks Department to also take care of the trees in the parklands.
I think that I mentioned that, if you're talking about beech trees, I think there's about a copse of about 14 of them together that I feel should be watched carefully for the beach park disease.
14 of the beech trees, whereabouts?
It's that one.
Jean's saying there's like a group of 14 in the parklands, all clustered?
Yeah, they're the ones.
Near Ruth's
She was
Bridge.
talking- Near Ruth's
talking
Bridge.
about.
Near Ruth's Bridge.
Yes.
That's
On the other side, yes. On the right, if you go up there, it's on, they sit in the right, they have a little copse of their own. They don't sit up close to the roadway there. You know where they are? No?
well, the spot, if you're heading west on Old
Excuse me.
Wyomissing.
You know what, I'm sorry.
Oh.
You said beech tree,
Yeah.
I heard birch tree.
Oh,
I'm so sorry.
it's
It's okay,
okay.
it's okay. Does anybody else have any other questions? No? We would like to, and Gina had brought this up, try and possibly get together, oh no, never mind, that's later. People, okay, no, planning methodology for maintaining and planting of street trees, we kind of talked about that.
Greg, I think what they're looking for is at the April meeting for you to come in and maybe do a deeper dive on, one, talking about the software you use to track all of the trees, maintenance requests, when the last time they were touched, and then also what is the mindset behind what is planted there or where, both prior years and then now moving forward. Like, I know Mark had a plan as to what he planted where, so maybe touching on that a little bit, and then how things have changed over the years. And I'm not, you don't have to do
Things
that.
have changed a lot over the years due to that. Basically, we're in a process now with our trees have reached a maturity where we're getting a lot more that are dying. So we're removing them. So you're gonna have a lot more younger trees, and that the process is we're gonna take the stumps out and we usually plant back in the same spot. I think this is what you're asking, right?
Wasn't per se my question.
What exactly are you looking for?
I think she's talking about different species.
I'm sorry?
You're talking about species, what species we did before versus now.
Yeah.
You mentioned more exotic in the past and more native now.
Yeah, I'm gonna stay with more the native trees, the oaks, no ash, because we can't plant them, use the animal ash board, but maples, and we are gonna plant lindens back in because Tuna and Johnson love the lindens, and that's what's along Dauphin Avenue, and we're gonna stay with, not unless somebody, for some reason, has an objection.
Oh, there's the people that want native.
Hate feeling people that live on them and need,
Right.
yeah.
Right, they hate.
I'm not changing that up drastically, but, when we take a tree down, we replace it, and it's gonna be more natural to the area instead of, how can I explain it? There's a lot of Asian trees we were putting in, and we're having issues with them. And I'm gonna stay away from that if I can.
Okay.
Native trees do a lot better along the street.
You have trees that drop their leaves before the bird stops picking them up. That's a joke.
Yeah, I guess.
I can't do nothing about
No,
that.
I'm teasing you. Don't pay attention.
A healthy tree will hold its leaves longer than a non-healthy tree, so they're gonna hold on sometimes till January.
We know, we're still there.
Yep. Yeah, I guess it was just the question of what you plant where and why.
For next time.
You know, in the future, like, why are you planting?
I have a list here of what I'm doing for this year. Okay, I have 13, if everybody wants to go around, and then here's the spots. So it's the spots where we remove trees and they're going back in. And I have the majority of it is 13 sugar maples. I got chestnut oaks. We're backing off on the red oaks a little bit, just because they're harder to establish. And they do become much more massive. Your chestnut oaks are a little smaller. And then I got, of course, red maples, scarlet oaks. Now we are putting some katsura trees in, which is a Asian tree, but they're down on Parkside Drive North, near the Stone House, and they really are very low maintenance and easy to maintain. So it's just the first couple of years of establishment. Then you got, I'm putting swamp white coffee, Kentucky coffee trees, that's native. Leave them out to the area, and it's Kentucky, it's more, a little more southern. And, some river birches, and black gums, that's all native to this area.
Greg, you want to speak just for a second too about, not a struggle, but the thought of the boulevards of Red Oak, Dolphin Avenues, Linden, and that's what gives the appeal of
Yes.
of the appeal. But then you have the downfall of if the disease comes in, you lose them all, and you can say diversity, great, but you lose some of that appeal.
It was the monoculture, you like the, it does have that appeal, and that's what Toon and Janssen years ago wanted. They wanted that nice red oaks down the boulevard, so we are putting oaks in. I'm just staying a little bit more from the red oak category, and it's gonna be, the white oaks, which do very well along the street, they're less susceptible to disease and that, and also the scarlets, and they have a much more appealing color in the fall time, I can say. Then the red oak just turns brown, and that the scarlets get, the reason they're called scarlet oaks, as you may know, is they get a nice scarlet color, an orange color. So I'm staying with them.
Yeah, I feel like the diversity of oaks will still give you that, that monochromatic look that you're looking for. Which makes sense on the boulevard, I don't know if it makes sense on what's it, Dolphin, but that's for another day. Does anybody else have any other questions?
Is there, I've just been curious if there's a plan on addressing or replacing the Bradford pears that are in the median along the boulevard. You know, those are, I mean, you can't buy them in Pennsylvania anymore, they're obnoxious, invasive, and they have some pretty aggressive codominant leaders on them that from like a structural
We're
safety.
slowly taking them out as they get worse. Take them out, and we're planting hawthorns in there.
I noticed.
It's a native tree, and it has a nice flower, and the birds love it.
Yeah, no.
So we're, and there are some magnolias also on the boulevard. So yes, we are getting away from the pears, the Calgary pears, yes.
Anything else? Did that kind of cover some of our winter and spring plans, basically, or no?
For the Parks Department.
What do you guys have?
Do you want, what we've done, or you want what's coming?
I guess what we've recently done and what's upcoming, just in this past couple.
Well, then I'll start from here. So recently, the past month, it's been leaf cleanup, pool playgrounds, here the Borough Hall Library, cleanup from the storms that we've had with the snow, brings a lot of debris and stuff down. We started cleaning cutting a lot of the ornamental grasses, the barberries. Started working on the flower beds here just recently. We go through, try to trim, prune, clean, get the leaves out, and kind of get ready for mulching in the spring. Elevate limbs. All that stuff, like we put that goes into our recycling dumpster. The past bit after we took all the holiday decorations down, put them in storage, store them away. Equipment repairs, we do the weekly trash recycling. We get to work on the equipment. Prep is the equipment for the snowstorms. We're out salting, plowing, blowing, shoveling. Like we not only just apply salt material in the trucks, we hand apply materials on the sidewalks. The stone house, we do pond maintenance, we drain it and clean it. That's twice a year. Equipment repairs again and cleaning from the storms and working. We work with, we've been talking with Greg, we've been doing some talks about the trees like you mentioned earlier. They actually were doing some removals. We actually took several pieces of trees that they took down and removed. We just did that. Those pieces were put back at the barn. I want to try to make benches again out of like how the climber bench was up top that used to be up there. That stuff's gonna have to age a bit and get where it needs to be before we start with that. And whenever we get some free time to start working on that. We got various trainings coming up. We're working on removing the rest of the wooden guide rail that was in the park. We graded the stone and filled the holes in the parking lots, and some of them are washed out, just to kind of make it by for now. We will go back to them once we get into the spring and grade the parking lots and get the stone in those and get them to where they need to be. Upcoming work, more of on the priority side of it, is the flower beds to finish up. I try to get those done by the end of February. You say because we're coming into the spring, that's when we start mulching. Hazardous tree removal. Again, that was stuff that we talked about with the tree department. March, the end of February, beginning of March usually starts our Parklands, the field mowing. Not only do we mow, I try to trim around the trees that are in those fields and clean up around them as we mow. And towards the end of that then, that puts us into, like, we start our first round of arm mowing, which is mowing along the streets and those all throughout the whole borough, and work on the trails. As far as projects coming up, we have work to do on our pole barn, finish up removing the wooden guide rail, mulching the flower beds and planting, playground mulch, install the kiosks that are a couple that were purchased to replace the ones that are there. Remove and replace the deck with the benches on a long old Wyomissing road. Replace the wood and remaining permanent benches that are in the park, throughout the park. Grade and add stone to the parking lots like I already mentioned, but we gotta dig out and install some footers and a concrete pad at the barn. And we also work with the guys at the pool when we clean up, start to open the pool, and whatever they need, if they need extra help, work on that. And as far as events that are coming just into the spring is the trout rodeo and Memorial Day.
There's 2 kiosks that were purchased, right?
Yes. Greg, do you wanna talk about those?
Kiosks.
The delay?
The delay has been, most of the work that Lloyd and the 2 guys that he has, he's short-staffed right now, which is not helping any. There was some talks of where we're gonna put them, where we're not gonna put them. We just wanna make sure we're gonna be putting them in the right spot. Kind of with the Parkland stuff going on, we wanna install these new kiosks where we think they should go, or we wanna kind of wait. We just wanted to make sure.
Am I correct, they need a footer?
Well, yeah, we have to dig them, and depends on the weather, and if they have time, it's time. A lot of it's time, the weather.
They were also delayed in arriving.
Yeah, I know they were delayed in arriving, and then they arrived, and then they hadn't been put in, but does it, I guess.
But the old ones are an abomination, they are an embarrassment. And the excuse for not repairing that is that these have been on order, it's been a year since they've been on order, so I'd ask, if we're not gonna install them, then repair what we have, because they look disgusting. And the borough should be embarrassed by how they look.
Let me ask this, would it be faster to repair them and
We
clean them
can-
up a little
we can
bit?
clean them up a little bit.
And if we can clean them up and make them look appropriate until we get more information from this study and decide whether these kiosks are viable in that where would they be best used?
The shingles are rotting, they're just awful.
Yeah, they need replaced, but we can doctor them up, band-aid them up.
That'd be great, because the explanation's been, why, it makes sense, why spend the resources doing that if they're gonna be replaced? But if we're not gonna replace them, we should make them more serviceable.
Yeah, I mean, if it's faster to repair them and wait rather than putting in footers, digging, and finding out that the study thinks, oh, they would be better suited somewhere else, then maybe we do more of them.
On the other hand, people are used to seeing them, so.
But maybe we need more.
I guess
maybe
we're
we
gonna have
need
more,
more,
not
maybe they need
different places, yeah. but
Yeah,
Whatever.
I don't know.
Joanne, how much of a time commitment do you think it is for you to spruce them up? Just guess.
And cost.
That's kind of a question I would have. What are you really, like, how far are you looking to go to? What are you
50% better than
just
they look
like-
now?
What do you want,
like
Jana?
paint
Well, I think
or-
50% better might take 2 hours. They're really
I think
awful.
they're stains.
I mean,
You need
the
plexiglass,
shingles
you
are
shingle roof.
coming off, it's just, I'm not asking for it to look, to spend days on it, but it's an embarrassment.
It would take a couple days, which is, I think, okay, but I'd probably have Steve from the building grounds. He could probably spruce them up.
Well, you've gotta set your priorities, but I just,
It's
we
up to
haven't
you
done it
guys.
for this
We
reason
can-
and.
It's still, we have to find the time.
Understood.
We can replace the two that are there.
With the new ones.
To me, it makes more sense to
I mean,
replace.
yeah, I mean, what's the time difference between zhuzhing them up and just replacing them? I mean, are you gonna get it done faster and sooner if
Well,
you
that's
clean
it,
them up?
because one of them needs a lot more than just a little
Then
spruce
maybe
up.
we could just try and at least get that one in the ground soon.
The whole, like, it's,
Is that the one by your parking lot?
yeah.
That's the one in question, right?
Yeah, that was a big one to question because that really wasn't even like, that part that's on the map really is the one that had talked about, wasn't really gonna be like a designated parking area and like a kiosk area. But it's, I don't know, somehow we slipped it up there. Like, my kind of question would be, that we usually see, like, they're in the middle. Normally, your kiosks are out at the outer side where your parking lots would be for your information, like coming in.
Right, but on the meadow trail, it's not that far from the parking lot. You just walk, down that little, the hill, and you've got the kiosk right there. To me, that makes sense to have it there.
At the old mill. At the old mill.
Yeah.
Yes, that one does, but I'm just the one that I'm thinking, we kind of talked about, was in question, was the one that was barn.
Well, I don't think as many people see that one.
Should we move that one to the quarry field parking lot? Would that make more sense?
Well, I would wait for the study for that one. I mean,
So,
but-
do we just take the one down at the park barn, replace the one at Old Mill with the new one, and hold off?
my personal preference, and it is only personal, would be to replace the abomination near the Meadow Trail parking lot. But I'm not, it's not my decision. Okay?
I
I've
would
got.
personally agree with that.
Okay. I mean, I've
yeah.
got a seat at the table, but it's not my decision. That's the one that, to me, that's by far the worst.
It's up to you guys.
So how about we try and push to get that one replaced, and we'll wait on the other one. Does anybody have
Should
any?
we leave it up, or should we take it down, so it doesn't look like such a mess with it?
I mean, I don't know if it's very useful where it's at, right?
Yeah, I mean, I don't see that one, like, I get that having it, like, rather than having one at all of the entrances, I imagine the thinking was, well, if we have one centrally, people kind of interact with it, but I don't see that one getting as much use as the one by the Old Mill Trail, like, at least, in my experience in the park, that I would almost say, if we took that one out, waited for the commission and spruced up the one by the Stonehouse, or not the Stonehouse, the Wyomissing Foundation building on the Old Mill, that might make sense, signal, getting rid of the one in that central area, signal that changes are happening, and then either that could get replaced if, the study suggests it, or that second one might benefit by being somewhere else would kind of be my thought, because I think the old mill parking lot's definitely like a high traffic access point. That I feel like that would kind of be my thoughts. Replace that one and then wait on doing the second one until the study comes through, or spruce up the middle one a little bit. But yeah,
So, how about we replace the one on Old Mill, and tear down the one at the park? Because either way, that's gonna have to get replaced or rebuilt, so let's just take it down. And then when the study comes through, and we decide what we're doing, we'll hold on to the other kiosk and see where we'd like to go. Is that something we need to make a motion for or anything?
There's not a motion on the agenda, so
I know, so we can't. Okay. That's interesting.
It's just a workable thing.
It's just a
all
workable
right.
thing, all right.
Does
Sounds good.
anyone have any other thoughts on?
No, I think
how
that makes sense. Jan, are you happy with that?
Yes, thank you very much.
Awesome. All right, is there anything else on the plans, or are we good?
I had a question about,
Yeah.
does your department have street sweepers?
The road department does.
The borough has a street
The
sweeper.
borough has one street sweeper, right? Does it run, does it have a set schedule that it goes through?
It has a routine.
Is it?
Some of it's weather dependent. It's out 4 days a week generally, unless there's snow on the ground. Or during the fall, so.
Or unless it's broke down, which has been an issue this year.
And it goes down alleyways occasionally?
Once a year, in the spring, we usually have to rent it. Our machine is a little big for the alleys, it can do it. But in the springtime, we go through the alleys one time a year, basically, with the sweep. Just the concrete alleys, not stone alleys.
Okay. Let's look at Parkland for Stewardship study.
So I'm gonna give a little background before I introduce our guests. For those of you new to the commission, the council approved 2 years ago, for the 23 budget, $20,000 to perform a stewardship study. And then after doing some research and realizing it was gonna cost a little bit more money, they approved an additional $20,000 for a total of $40,000 to put towards the forest stewardship study. I wrote the RFP that's up on the screen right now to give you an idea of what was asked for in that RFP. The research we're asking the consultant to look into, here I'll blow this up so you're not also putting it the screen. Analyze the existing trails for their condition and need for repair, analyze trails for missing connections, analyze existing trail markers, signs, kiosks, and their locations, analyze existing trailhead and parking locations, review the existing trail use regulations and borough codes, identify and locate hazardous trees, native vegetation, invasive vegetation, habitat areas of native wildlife species, identify the existing negative impact on native vegetation and woodland areas due to the deer population, identify and locate critical riparian buffer zones along the creek, identify and locate wood and leaf waste storage areas, including mulch, firewood, leaves, and other natural materials, look at the existing picnic tables, benches, plaques, other amenities that we provide within the parklands, and then review the borough code language establishing the Park and Shade Tree Committee and their responsibilities. Along with that are specific recommendations we're asking for the final product to include, which you can see directly correlate to the things we're asking the consultant to look at. So the RFP was put out for publication in the fall of '23. Jana, myself, Jim and Greg conducted interviews with the top 3 consultants. Our recommendation was to award the project to Floura, Teeter, and Berks Nature. And Jeremy Haymaker and Larry Lloyd from Berks Nature are here with us today. We had a kickoff meeting about 2 weeks ago on the phone, and this past Friday afternoon, Jim, Greg, Dwayne, and myself, along with Zach, is it Bayer? Or Bayer. From Floura, Teeter, Larry and Jeremy we started with a part of the parklands, we didn't finish, just to kind of go over some of the areas we know are important as well as concerns that Dwayne has. So with that, I will turn it over to the both of you.
Hi, Jeremy Haymaker, Trails and Preserve Specialist at Berks Nature.
Larry Lloyd, I'm my title senior ecologist. Jeremy and I, we have a lot of preserves and a lot of trails, and have been doing this for a really long time. Formerly known as Berks County Conservancy and founded by Lewis Toon, one of the forefathers here at the borough. So our job, the jobs are split up. The plan writers will be Floura, Teeter, with the data collection, and we've already started on that. I think one of our main reasons for being here is to give you a face for some of the people that will be working, hear any concerns that you have, and also we're here not just for the plan. We've been here before, and we'll be here after. Have a great park and a great resource, and a lot of people use it that can be reached. So I'm looking forward. Happy to hear what else is on the agenda. Well, one of the things we wanted to talk about was there's going to be walks that you will be invited to attend, or the walk time will be developed with the time that you would participate. That's going to be mostly done with Zach at Floura Teeter for arranging those things. And we have, we're hoping that you're going to be able to generate a lot of public input, which everyone feels, your staff as well as those of us involved, that it's really important to get as much input as possible. So we have some, we've already been in touch with Randy about events that we could be participating in that might be more visible to the public, like the trout rodeo, the 4th of July.
Randy's the rec director, should we start?
So the idea is to have them at some of the recreation events to do the public outreach arm.
Is there a way to get this information that you sent to me to the rest of the commission so they can see a more detailed list of what we're requesting of these
Sure.
things? Because I think it's.
Do you just want me to send the actual request for proposals out?
Yeah, if you could do that, that would be great, because I know they'd like to see it as well. I'm really excited to have you guys doing this.
Yeah, I kind of see our role as kind of being the conduit between Floura Teeter and Michelle. So hopefully we can be helpful in any way.
Sounds good.
For what it's worth, I think what weighed heavily, at least for me, in choosing Floura Teeter and Berks Nature is Berks Nature has been an asset to the borough before when we had some questions being able to go to them, but just also knowing the number of preserves they currently manage. Neversink, Onalani's one of yours, isn't it? Just their actual, if you've never been to Berks Nature's location by Alvernia, it's beautiful. So I think that speaks volumes, plus knowing both of their knowledge in general because of their history of doing what they do. We've also talked about, they're trout puppets, I don't know what else to call them. Do you wanna speak to that? I'll see if I can find the picture.
We've used in an event, and this is what we're hoping for the 4th of July, is the trout puppets. Since you have Wyomissing Creek, which has breeding wild trout in the stream, it's sort of a symbol for Wyomissing Creek in general. And so we hope to be, as part of generating interest in the community interest in the plan, is to be, these are large puppets, maybe you'll see when we get the photo up there. But that's just one of the ways that we're hoping to engage the public of the importance of input ahead of time as opposed to after the fact.
Yeah.
And we're interested in hearing more ways that your committee can reach. There we go. They're big, and it takes a number of people to carry, but there's streamers and there's also monarch butterflies. So
the idea is to have these in the 4th of July parade again to raise awareness. We also talked when we were doing the site walk on Friday about, as we move forward with this, putting initially temporary signs out just to notify the public, hey, did you know, like I don't know what that area is called, up kind of above Climber's Bench. we call that something?
It has a name.
Name. It's an area that used to be a forest that's been destroyed by deer. You know, maybe just putting a sign at that general area, did you know this is not what a forest looks like? And then putting some educational pieces there with it to get people to understand the reasons behind when the recommendations come out and we start implementing. We're not doing this just because we want to do it. There's science backing the reasons we're either closing trails or adding trails or moving trails or doing different things in different areas. So it becomes an educational piece as well as just a beautiful area for the public to enjoy.
There could be signage recommended, or I'm sure there'll be signage recommended, educational signage explaining things like forest, but also water quality, stormwater. There's all kinds of possibilities. The plan isn't written, but input coming in will be helpful in recommending the signs, because we see this as an opportunity to educate about a natural approach to parks, which you already have a great start on with the meadows.
Michelle, we're going to use QR codes so that people can get.
Yeah, we've discussed that, yes.
Yeah, the one thing in that proposal was conducting focus groups and interviews with residents and stakeholders, and that's, I think, gonna be key, and that was really.
And I think we've already identified, obviously, the Highlands, the directly abutting property owners, but also, you know, them going out just on an average day and stopping people, like, who are you, where are you from, why do you use the Parklands, the school district, maybe working with the environmental club at the school to get them to assist in some way, shape, or form. Obviously harnessing the power of the residents of the Highlands and some of the clubs that you already have. I think there's a lot of opportunities for outreach and input.
Yeah, I mean, if you have an online survey that you can create, we can put a QR code to that in Parklands, we'll put it on the website.
We can blast it out through my
anywhere.
rec, we can do a lot of
Yeah.
things with it.
Put it in
Yes,
that
yeah.
kiosk we just took out.
Yep.
Yeah.
Larry, you know, in the last 5 or 6 years, I have really become distressed, like Jean has, in terms of new invasives appearing in the park, spreading in the park, degrading the environment, and I'm very aware that mitigating that problem is a very labor-intensive and long-term project. And I've thought for years, you know, the Wyomissing Park needs a friends group, you know, like Angelica Park has. We need to harness, you know, not just high school students, but, you know, people who value that park and are willing to spend a few hours now and then, you know, to help it. And I noticed in the language that I've seen as far as what, you know, the work that this commission can do, it includes, you know, creating a volunteer force or using volunteers. Anyway, I have no idea how you go about creating that kind of volunteer project. But I think the park, I don't think the invasive, you know, plants are gonna be mitigated effectively if we don't have something on that order.
There
We
was
also
a,
have to watch out for collective bargaining agreements.
Yes. So we have union employees who are contracted to take care of the parkland. So there's a fine line of maybe bringing in some volunteers under organized events to work under Dwayne with his direction, but not replacing the work that they do.
Jeremy will talk about our ambassador program, which is sort of similar to what you're talking about. We have watershed associations, but also wanted to chime in before that the recommendations can also be used for grant applications so that you could be hiring something. This is a massive job. The honeysuckle has been let go for at least 50 years. And there's, well, we've seen Tree of Heaven and all kinds of stuff, and there needs to be replanting. So that's going to be really important. That's why the idea of the student, the club being involved, but also.
So at Berks Nation, we have the ambassador program. So each year we'll go through and we'll have a new class each year. We'll train them in different facets of natural resource stewardship and whatnot. Then at the end of the year, we have graduation, and then they kind of come back and contribute their time and effort into helping us with various projects, whether it be speaking at events, invasive species removal, and stuff like that, so.
And other preserves, people, the ambassadors, or even volunteers, since tree planting is gonna be important, whether it's on the forest or along the stream to regenerate the systems, is people we have people just look at the tree, you know, a few times a year. Did the deer knock the shelter, is the shelter still there so they don't rub it or eat it? Or this one, the leaves didn't come out, and, you know, just getting bonded to your resources is gonna be important.
Do you have any kind of a training program for the ambassadors?
We do. So we'll do, I'd say every 2 weeks or so, we'll have a different focus group. So one will be on water testing. I lead one on, you know, trails and invasive species removal.
Tree planting is
Tree
one.
planting, we'll do one of those.
Gene, the deadline application is March 28th, right?
I believe that. I'm more of a boots on the ground type person.
Deadline application is March 28th. I think it costs $75.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, I'm looking at it.
That's just a suggestion for the way maybe you can be,
Yeah.
having the Friends group is pretty much the same thing as our ambassador program, is what I'm
I'm
getting at.
thinking of joining your ambassador
Yeah,
program.
well, that'd be great.
Jay, if I could ask a
Yeah.
question, please? What I'm hearing, excited about, it's very impressive. Do you have experience with soliciting outside agencies to contribute financially?
As far as grants?
To besides grants, to programs, or, you know, Wyomissing, I think, is, we have all of these landscape companies, and I think they all focus on Wyomissing rather than any other municipality in Berks County. And I think we need to start addressing these and say, hey, you know, we have this program or this effort we want to concentrate on, and we're looking for contributions. Okay, you know, we rely on grants constantly, and we do a good job with it, with getting them. But there's other avenues. You know, you want to get more people involved, start asking them for money. You know, and the ones that want to contribute, you know, they will.
It's an excellent idea. We solicit money mostly for ourselves, though. However, it's an excellent idea. You could be putting it in any number of things we have as part of our membership, and you could be putting this in your newsletter. Not adopt a tree. You can contribute to the park. You can contribute to buying trees. You could contribute to invasive species. You could be working with your companies that are here to adopt parts of the park. There'd be management zones and different things. So there's, in talking to your businesses, that would be the way. Or maybe it's your committee that reaches out to some of the businesses or sends letters, something like that. Or even in the newsletter to adopt a tree. Or
We've talked about that in the past, about the benches and about the
Yeah.
trees.
Yeah, and I think that needs to be looked at again. I've spoken to Michelle about that. I think it's a good program, and wasn't Randy gonna bring that up again at some point?
To me, that really falls under Greg, and he's kind of been swamped with a lot of other things he's been focused on that, I mean, the bench program is not, to me, a priority until we're on the other side of this study.
Understand.
Does anybody else have any more questions for these guys?
Yes, I mean, I'm just trying to picture how, you know, the expertise and, you know, knowledge that people on the commission have, how that can feed into, you know, your gathering of data and information. Are we gonna be able to help with that in any way?
the walks, there'll be the walking. I'm sure there'll be a draft presentation of the initial draft that will be for comments.
Okay.
Well, and there's some part of it that you are looking into the wildlife, so this scale here can help you with all the birds.
Well, I could, you know, I could certainly, you know, get some data off of eBird. I mean, maybe you can too, or if somebody else is could do that, but
those are the kind of things we often put in appendices, so that your list itself, you know, you can have the birds of Wyomissing Park, or what you've seen, or what else you've seen, and that could be on one of the educational signs, could be the wildlife in the park, and then talking about that, and then the QR code's a great idea, and then directing them to your website. So, you know, the idea is not just for the public input, but for leadership from the committee.
Will there be information shared about the dates for the February and April stakeholder meetings, like with this commission, to either encourage people to go contribute or, you know, show up ourselves to be a part of that?
That's more Floura Teeter, that's initiating
Oh,
that.
so they're gonna, sorry.
No, you're fine. I don't have the dates yet. As soon as I do, I will gladly share them. I need to know from them more in terms of, in February, is that more where they're gonna do deep dive with the Highlands, deep dive? I mean, my takeaway from the initial consultant interview before we gave the contract to them was some of that, they literally just wanna go out and walk door to door to those abutting properties on High Road.
Yeah.
Leave a mailer if nobody's home, but then the next step would also be involvement with this committee.
Okay,
So between you and Floura and Teeter, and we'll come up with another time where they would come to our, I know we got it at the April meeting in the beginning, it's actually the March meeting, I think we're every other month now, correct?
Yes, sorry about that, old habits die hard.
Yeah.
I would expect that meeting will have as more of a field trip than a meet here.
Yeah.
Which kind of ties nicely into doing a guided tour of the parklands.
Yeah, that's the next topic is, Jean had brought up, like, can we get together as a committee, as a commission, and have a guided tour of the parklands with people who are there all the time and know them, and really, I don't know if these guys, you guys are gonna be involved as well, and our next meeting in March would be sort of an on-site meeting. Walk around. We all like this idea? Yeah. Okay.
And any questions can be developed at any time. I mean, there's feedback, Michelle is in contact with Floura, you know, there's emails every week about the next steps, and so if anything comes up at any time, it can be fed into what we're thinking about when we go out there.
Okay. Is it appropriate, does it make sense for that to specifically be our next meeting, is just an on-site meeting instead of here? Can you just replace this March 27th meeting?
Possibly, just depending if any other action items come up between now and then that we would actually maybe need to hold just a short, smaller
Okay.
in-person meeting complimentary to that sidewalk.
Okay.
TBD.
Alright. And I guess somewhat weather TBD.
Yes. Hopefully no snow, but who knows?
Wouldn't the sidewalk be?
Yeah,
It has to be,
Yeah, it would be our official.
It's not instead of the meeting, it's
No,
part of the meeting.
well, it's our, that's what I'm saying, instead of a seated meeting, that would be our meeting, and it would be a Right. So I guess we have here a motion is needed to approve recommending to council approve advertisement of a special park and shade tree commission meeting to be held on site in the parklands on March 27th, 2024. Theoretically.
I'm curious why we never make motions to approve other meeting advertisement.
I think it's because we're moving the location, I don't know.
Yeah, we have to re-advertise, and I think just to make sure everybody's on the same page, I threw a motion on there.
So I'll make the motion to approve, do I have a second? Second. All those in favor? Aye. Okay.
That needs to be formally blessed by council at their February 13th meeting, but I see no reason they would not be supportive of that.
Okay, so the next topic is chapter 16, Park and Recs Borough Code. Did everybody get this Borough Code?
This is watermark draft, it's not, this is the actual current code.
This is the actual
Yes,
Borough Code?
yes.
Okay. So I've highlighted a few things, if we wanna scroll through them. Straight up in the beginning, persons, we have the masculine shall include the feminine and neuter. So maybe we wanna just double check that. Did anybody have anything? I have like a few things in like section 102, talking about swimming, bathing, wading, entering in any way, any waters or waterway except, no person shall do this. Yet we allow it to happen on the 4th of July, and like, are we enforcing this? Is this something that should be in the code?
I mean, to anybody that's seen the new swimming signs that have gone up between, let's say, Wyomissing Boulevard and the pool, it's because of repeated calls to the police departments. And I think there's a significant difference between, you know, maybe a parent and a child wading ankle to knee deep versus we've had entire families, picnic cooler, grill, vehicle parked in the grass, swimming, and like throwing a party in the creek. So regardless of where you go with this, you need to understand if it's in the code, we have to enforce it uniformly. So we can't say, yes, parent, it's okay for you to be in there with your toddler ankle deep, but no, family, you can't.
Well, this would also prohibit Cub Scouts.
Yeah, I mean,
I was
this
there
should-
last
yeah, they
spring
should
when
not be
there
allowed to do
probably
that.
were 40 kids and their parents, and we had 2 sergeants
Yep.
and a police officer who were called by somebody complaining that, gee, children are in the water. And that they had a boat thing. Boat in the water, went down the water and got the.
Well, yeah, and there's B,
And
no
that's
boats
technically
in the water.
prohibited, which is,
Silly.
yes, yeah.
It is, but at the same time, there's no portage point on that creek.
So I guess my question is, if we're gonna keep the A and B in the code, then we have to enforce uniformly across the board.
Well, we could,
You're
we
not
could.
proposing we can remove something from this, can we?
Yes, I'm proposing we offer to remove it, we have to take it to
This
council.
commission has the power to do
No,
that?
they don't, they have the power to send it to council and ask council to remove
But
it.
you know,
So that is the goal, because this is under our purview, this is under Parklands and Recreation
right,
Land.
so.
I'm saying let's discuss it and take it to council.
In the example Michelle had, people bring in grills and all of that. We could prohibit people bringing in grills and all these other things, but still allow waiting.
Yeah, and I mean, that's already in there, the no fires, grills, and at least, I'm like,
Camping, food preparation,
yeah, yeah, so I mean,
Yeah, that's
that
another
idea of like
spot.
elaborate recreation versus like, you know, a kid going in to flip over a rock and look for a crayfish.
Yeah.
I mean, I feel like there's a pretty big difference, and it's defined by the other activities surrounding that type of recreation versus somebody walking in with a, you know, a little boat on a string and pulling that, you know.
I think in some capacity, you wanna keep bait in there for the simple fact of the pollutants with soap getting into the creek. I would suggest keeping that in.
So does that prevent the Boy Scouts from pulling their rafts around in?
Unless they're doing it with soap on a rope.
But it,
What was that about again? Refresh my memory.
So,
What were they doing with the?
Because it says bathe, I said I would suggest keep, you don't want people literally bathing.
oh,
Yes.
yeah, sorry, I thought you
Subject
said,
A.
yeah,
stream.
I thought you said B and not B.
Yeah, I thought you said B too.
Yeah.
And then they pulled them
No,
out.
bathe.
So it's just like a
It's
dumpster.
definitely need to change the verbiage.
Right,
Yeah.
you know,
Part of
if
Parkland,
we,
yeah.
Common sense.
well, I think that's what we have.
Specifically
Well,
outside of bees, no.
You know, some
but-
of these, like the Boy Scout, you know, common sense prevails.
Mm.
Well, you wanna do that now? Do you wanna tell the library they can't float the ducks down?
Well, I mean, this
Do-
goes back to, clearly these have not been enforced uniformly. We
Right.
look the other way for our own events versus, and that's not unusual. I mean, zoning, land development, we're exempt from our own regulations.
Well, I mean, you can say no bathing,
Nothing's
skip
okay.
this, we can look at, we can't make any motions because it's not on the thing, it's really just a discussion to, the question is, we're not enforcing it evenly. So do we look at changing A to just bathing, and do we look at stating, you know, none of this shall happen without prior consent from the borough? And just adding that verbiage in means, yes, that we can, the Boy Scouts can ask
So like
to
right
put
in
their
the,
rafts
right
in.
in the heading there, no person shall
Well-
without prior permission.
Within some of them, they just shouldn't be doing it, but in others, you know,
Yeah.
no person shall boat in any waters or waterways, blah, 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 without prior permission from council. Like it does say down lower, no person shall camp or sleep overnight except as may be specifically authorized by the Parks and Rec Director. No person shall ignite or maintain any open or other type of fire, that's, picnicking, barbecues, without written permission from the Parks and Rec Director.
And we do allow the Boy Scouts and the Cub Scouts to go in there
So,
and do that.
No person shall bathe in the water, but
Fishing reviews, so people don't lose their fish. We ask them to camp out there.
And then under wildlife, under J, it says no person shall place, set, or maintain any trap or trapping device in or about our waters. That's a fish hook in the water. So that should also say without permission from the borough.
So I would
we
actually
allow
say
it.
without an author, like without a fishing license.
Can they fish in there with a fishing license?
People do it all the time.
Okay.
But you can't wade in the water.
But you can't wade in the water, yeah, but you're not allowed to wade in the water. So I'm just saying, I think this all
Something
needs
needs to
to
be
be
changed, yes.
sort of looked at and readdressed.
So do
For
you
what
wanna have a
it's
red
worth-
line version for the next meeting?
This was last updated in, some part of it was
This looks like
updated
a
in
starting
2019, but the original language is from 20.
Yeah, there's also K, which means you can't use any profanity or profane language or expressions.
So that never happens anyway.
Well, I personally, they say very intelligent people are profane, and I do use a lot of profanity. Now, I'm aware I don't use it in a classroom when I substitute teach, I don't use it when there are children around, but letter K should be just completely removed, because then you can go down to S, and it says no person shall be engaged in a manner which demonstrates, other than a manner which demonstrates due courtesy and due regard for the safety and well-being of other persons. Well, that means don't curse around children, don't be lewd around children, or anyone, there's some things in here that just seem very unnecessary and outdated.
Would you like me to propose a red line version for the next meeting?
Yes.
Who's redlining it?
And we'll say one thing.
Unless you.
No, I got enough on my plate, thank
Yeah.
you.
I thought you probably did.
On
Yeah,
the,
I
on the
already have.
profanity thing, although we kind of chuckle about that, but that's in order to give us some teeth. If somebody is acting disorderly in that manner, that a borough official has the authority to call the police department and have that person removed and or cited for disorderly conduct.
Well, I think that's covered in S, where they are disregarding the safety and well-being of other persons.
You could add, or otherwise acting in a disorderly manner.
Yeah.
You can throw that in.
I think I could tell you the last time a borough today had to call our police departments or, so I don't know if that's ever happened.
It happens with some homeless encampments.
Yes,
Yeah.
but outside of that, because someone was acting recklessly or offensively, that I think if one of us had to make that call, the police department would respond.
Yeah, I just feel like our ordinances should be as accurately up to date as possible. I lived in State College, and you couldn't have more than 5, I believe it was 5 women living in the same house, or it was a brothel. So, we could not have, we couldn't, the women had to rent the smaller
But you
apartments.
wanna be careful you don't tie your own hands too.
Right, that's true.
Well, I'm happy to review it with Chief Phillips to make sure he has all enforcement power.
Okay.
At this point, we don't have a Parks and Recreation Director.
No.
That's true.
So you might wanna put.
I would belt and suspender it, and what if by chance both of those positions were vacant and or the borough manager and or
Yeah, I put borough manager or designate, and then that covers.
designated authorized representative?
Yeah.
We spent too much time with Chris's.
That's all, unless anybody else has anything on that.
I have a general concern about, enforcement. I've never seen any enforcement of any, and I've seen lots of activity in the park that, is prohibited. And it doesn't seem, but it doesn't rise to the level, I'm gonna call the cops, because somebody has their dog off the leash, but it happens all the time.
For what it's worth, I've already been walking through the Parklands with my business card on me, saw someone walking their dog off leash and just politely said, "Excuse me, I'm the borough manager, would you please put your dog on the leash? You may not be aware that that's against our park rules and regulations." F you, lady, who do you think you are? Okay. Okay.
Right, just give her kind of cursing.
Yes.
Yeah.
So,
Right.
I mean, that's why, for the most part, it has to be the police to enforce it, because otherwise they're not gonna take it seriously,
True.
which is unfortunate.
Well, and who was showing us the picture of the signs yesterday when we were at Breakfast and Recycling? Like the signs have some guidelines, but not others.
Just because if we would print that entire thing, we would need a 5
Well,
by 3
yeah,
poster
but-
board.
You know, dogs must be on leash, I don't, you know. It says some things but not other things, and I don't know if that's something that should be addressed in updating
Those signs were
rules and
updated.
regulations.
I know why this was updated in 2019. It's when we took the language out that said you had to be a borough resident to be able to use the parklands.
Right.
So that's when the actual physical signs out there were updated as well.
And we put no winter maintenance after there is a claim by a woman of Hooper Lake.
It might be worth also, like, just in terms of like with adding language about permission, like we're talking about volunteers coming through and removing invasive plants. That reads like it would be prohibited. No one shall remove any plant material of any kind, so like that might be another place that we wanna add in that kind of like conditional without like parks approval or, you know, supervision or, you know, whatever that
Yeah.
would feel good with regard to that, but I noticed that in there. Or
That
thought
makes
about that with
sense.
the conversation.
I mean, that would still be under, first there would be the, these are the people that are allowed to work under Greg and
Yeah,
what can
yeah.
happen, and yeah, okay. Alright. I think we've covered it. If nobody has anything else, I'd like to make a motion to adjourn. Okay, anything else? No? Does anybody want a second? Second. We're adjourned. Thank you all. I'm excited to have all of you on.
Well, that's there.
Next meeting date.
Yeah, so I was able to